I am David Cohen, and I am the Global Chair of the ISRM Cybersecurity Special Interest Group. I also double hat as the Chair of the Cyber and Tech Division for the ISRM. And then to pay the bills, I am the General Manager of the Cyber and Tech Division for the Risk to Solution Group of companies, to the Head of Solutions Integration, and the General Manager of the Cyber Tech Institute of Australia, which is the training division within the Risk to Solution Group of companies. And that's on Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to 1. So hopefully, unfortunately, Leanne is unwell and not able to be with us today. And hopefully this doesn't turn out to be a staged wicked problem that she has created putting in here. But without further ado, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the land on which we're meeting today and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. The land on which we're meeting today is that of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Now, interestingly, the Gadigal people use the land around this area for hunting in the harbour, for fishing in the foreshore as a place of congregation. Barangaroo itself is named after a powerful Camaragal woman of the Eora Nation who lived in the area at the time of the early colonial settlement. She was a considerable influence in the days of the early European colony. A little bit of housekeeping before we get to our thanks. I'll do the airport bit now and the cabin crew, my standard cabin crew piece. Exits are located on the left and the right of me. Bathrooms are located down the passage on the left-hand side. There will be floor lights that will illuminate the way out, and emergency exits are located on the way to the bathroom. Quite convenient that you might need the bathroom on the way to the emergency exit. I'd like to thank our hosts for today, Marsh, for putting this together and for hosting us in this fantastic venue, as well as the Risk to Solution Group for bringing it all together. And also I'd like to especially acknowledge Andrew Tatrai from our corporate sponsor of the ISRM, from Recess Access. 2023 is the 50th anniversary of the first academic paper that was published on wicked problems. In 1973, the design theorist Horst Rittel and Melvin Webber introduced the term wicked problem to draw attention to the complexities and challenges of addressing planning social policy problems. A wicked problem, one of the many definitions, can be defined as a social or cultural issue or concern that is difficult to explain and inherently difficult to fund or solve. Some examples of wicked problems today include things like education design, financial crises, health, aged care, hunger, poverty, income disparity, systemic disadvantage, vulnerable people and communities, particularly in our First Nations people, homelessness, criminal behaviors, including terrorism, climate change impacts, solutions and sustainability, just to name a few. Some of the key features on how we could work together to potentially address some of these problems: collaboration between government, public sector, private sector, NFPs, and more importantly, local communities. Making sure that everyone has a voice. This is what this summit is all about. We're certainly not going to solve all the problems today, but we will discuss the key issues for organizations, governments, and individuals through a strategic lens. Now, we all know that you're not here to listen to me. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers and panelists here today. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome your host for today, Ben Crowther. Ben is the Chief Client Officer of Marsh Advisory for the Pacific region, and Dr. Gav Schneider, who today is wearing the hat of the President of the ANZ chapter and the CEO of the Risk to Solution Group of companies.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to have you here today. It's an exciting partnership that Marsh and the ISRM have been able to join together today to address some of these wicked problems. For those of you that don't know, Marsh McLennan is one of the largest organisations associated with probably the three biggest problems that organisations face today. That's risk, strategy, and people. We've got around 80,000 people globally, and there's not too many countries on earth where we're not there working with organisations and governments of all sizes. Each year, we partner with the World Economic Forum on a global risk report, and it's interesting to see that every year those risks are just different. We see geopolitics, we're seeing crises associated with climate and shifting demographics, and every year these problems are just becoming more and more intertwined. What Marsh is trying to do is to work with governments, work with people to turn these risks into possibility. No longer can we just talk about insurance as being a solution for a lot of the world's problems. A lot of risks these days are uninsurable, and we're starting to see this importance of the alignment between risk and insurance. Today, it's going to be wonderful to listen to some of the people contributing to what some of the major issues are in public sector and also private sector. Some of the work that Marsh is doing around mega themes touches really all parts of society. We're starting to talk around disruptive technology, the rise of AI, increased digital transformation, and we're starting to see the emergence more and more of ESG and the need to report on ESG, the need for organisations to develop a corporate conscience, and what does that actually mean for organisations today. Particularly in the public sector, we're starting to see huge issues around talent crises and the ability to attract and retain people, and it's starting to become a real strategic risk for a lot of organisations. The discussions today obviously will be around resilience, and you can't have too many conversations around risk and organisational strategy today without having that discussion around resilience. And for us, we're starting to continually see the term resilience redefined and re-challenged in organisations. Again, with public sector, we see problems around economic pressures and obviously huge issues recently with inflation. And then finally, public sector funding and the lack of funding are all these mega issues that organisations are trying to deal with. And in some way, I think that what we will find today when we dive into some of these wicked problems is that we'll start to have an intelligent conversation about all these. As Dave said, we don't necessarily have the answers to some of these things. But in this room, I think that we'll be able to have quite a lively discussion. So again, on behalf of Marsh, thank you very much. I hope it's not the first time I see you all. I'm looking forward to listening in today. And for those of you that are here at the end of the day, looking forward to having a beer or a wine with you out on our balconies. So thank you very much, welcome, and enjoy the day.
Thank you all for joining us. The topic of wicked problems is one that's excited me for a long time. Why? Because frankly, we just don't have the answers for the complex world we've built around us. And it's getting more complex and more challenging as we move forward. So in some ways, it's simpler. We've never before in the evolution of humankind had lifetime access to the world's information in our pocket. We've never before had the ability to communicate with each other lifetime despite any geographical borders. So we're in a wonderful stage of human evolution, but we're all risk people, right? To some degree, we know there's an upside and a downside. And one of the challenges we've got as we move out of an era which has been dominated by management centrism, in other words, the thought and the idea that we have the ability to control and organize everything around us. That's a myth now, by the way. It probably always was a myth, but because things are moving so quickly, it's been broken. So part of what we wanted to do, and you'll meet the founder and executive director of the ISRM, David Rubin, shortly. I'm always humbled by David because he's like an entrepreneur on steroids. He's always got another idea. Maybe the only one who's worse is you, Julia. And that's a compliment. You. But realistically, what we wanted to do was get a whole bunch of people who we know are really smart, who are facing these challenges, together in a room. It went a little bit bigger than that. We actually wanted to keep this event to 40. There's 50 people face-to-face who booked for today, and roughly another 40 or 50 online. which is really good, bearing in mind most people don't even know what a wicked problem is. So clearly we've done well enough to attract some interest there. So from my side, from a risk to solution perspective, I've really focused on trying to grow a business that looks at how we integrate solutions and get more value out of integrating solutions. And we need to move from a compliance mindset to a mindset that enables us to deal with whatever we're confronted with and actually turn it to opportunity, not just manage the downside. Again, easy to say, practice is a little bit more difficult, but I am hoping that you'll get some tools, ideas, thoughts from the broad range of speakers we've got today, which transcend government, academia, private sector. We've tried to marry up also different wicked problems, from climate to data and privacy to out and out criminal behavior, to give us a bit of a taste. The challenge we've got with wicked problems, and I'll just give you one to incubate on, since this is a risk group. If we do a really good job at risk management, opportunity happens, bad stuff doesn't. Right? Does everyone agree with that concept? So if bad stuff doesn't happen, why would an organization keep putting money into preventing bad stuff from happening? Because it's not happening. Yeah, so it's a really awkward piece. Even the nature of our own vocation means that if we're really good at our job, we do ourselves out of a job. Yeah, so wicked problems perpetuate everywhere. I would like us, if possible, maybe we start to change the vernacular to wicked opportunities, or awesome opportunities, depends on your view, glass half full, glass half empty. But I think if we just leave today with one or two nuggets that we didn't have when we walked in, or maybe one or two relationships, because that's one of the central themes, that we solve wicked problems or address wicked problems better together. And nobody's got the universal formula to say, just follow these 5 steps and it will all be okay. Otherwise, we definitely would be having this conversation on my yacht, even though the view is probably not as good. The challenge we've really got, though, is in our own heads. And yes, we have many, many systems that have been built. I think in the last 3 days, I've probably had 5 meetings where stakeholders have gone, the biggest problem we've got is aging infrastructure with old infrastructure on top of it, new infrastructure on top of that, and brand new infrastructure on top of that, but it's all dependent on the old infrastructure at the bottom. So we're doomed, it's going to break. Okay, but on the other hand, if we look at it from a different perspective, we're seeing changes in technology so quickly that we might actually be able to disrupt some of these things and not have all these problems. But we definitely don't solve problems by putting our heads in the sand. So from my side, thank you for your time. Marsh, Ben, Nick, thank you for hosting us. David, thank you for coming from the UK. This actually kicks off the formal launch of the ISRM's Center for the Study of Wicked Problems, which is now a global division of the ISRM that's been set up, as the name says, the study of wicked problems, not the solutions package for wicked problems. Because I think if we come to the table with the reality of none of us have all the answers, we've got a much better chance of turning risk to opportunity. Welcome. Thank you.